this 1,749,000, which by the way was a listing that I got from YouTube, sold the person a house for 1.6 million. So this is a, roughly $3 million
video.
Yeah, in a way. But we boosted this one, so that's why it's got 2,600 views. It was a home tour.
So if you've been thinking about starting your YouTube channel, creating video content, and really getting yourself out there as a real estate agent today, what are the things you should be looking out for? And what are maybe some of the lessons you can learn from a couple of guys who have done it at a high level, and also understand what that path looks like, what the commitment looks like? And that's what we want to talk about today. Right, Alex?
Yep. Ready for it.
It's been a challenging one. And I think there's a lot of lessons. Anytime you go down a journey of any kind, undoubtedly you're going to pick up things that I think are going to be helpful for others. And that's the whole spirit of this one. And then if you stick around, we're going to do a deep dive into some of the analytics behind what's been successful, what do we deem successful, and kind of some of the stories that have come out of the YouTube journey for us. But, early on, what made you decide, Alex, to start the channel? And I'll also kind of go into kind of the things that we've done as well. But what made you start it? What framework did you start with that you thought was the best place to start with?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just to kind of like get really particular with what made me start, I'm not exactly sure, Eddie. Because it goes back to 2017 or so. I was doing I don't know. I was always okay, like going on stage and stuff like that. And not that you need to have to know how to go on stage or whatever, but I guess it just was something I gravitated towards. I didn't mind kind of doing this kind of thing. But anyhow, I started doing just a little market reports, and then kind of wanted it to be better. So I kind of met a guy that was coming out of college, did some video shooting and editing himself. And so we started doing some stuff. We started doing it through BombBomb. So all of you out there, if you're thinking about sending out, we just wanted to send it to the audience, so to our database. Back in 17 or something, I heard Tom Ferry say, video, send it to your database. So I was like, okay, that's what I got to do. We did that with BombBomb. There's some stuff some technical stuff that I couldn't even tell you why or why not. Why I can tell you shouldn't do it just through BombBomb. So you want to do Constant Contact or something like that if you're not doing YouTube. So anyways, the journey went a little bit further from there. Wanted it to get even better. Wanted to start a YouTube page. That was during C19. Got with a company that I would shoot the video on my phone, which, by the way, out there, you don't need this whole giant big setup. You've got a great camera on your phone, iPhone or Android, what have you. And so I started shooting my own video on my phone. A light kind of structure to the script, and sent it off to this company. Now, wasn't the best as far as editing quality. I had my part that there was some parts that I didn't record with sound right, like a room that didn't have any soundproofing, Eddie, so it sounded like, echo cave and all that. Like we were actually the other day looking back on some of the video, and the lighting was terrible and the audio was terrible, and it's like, oh gosh, but hey, that's part of the journey. So he told me, this guy was like, well, if you stick to it and you do, 30 videos like this is what's going to happen. And I was like, I can do that. I can come. He's like, well, most people will quit and I was like, I won't quit. And so I didn't quit. The success didn't come quite as fast as what he had kind of intimated that it might. So not that I got discouraged by that, but I was like, what am I doing wrong? So I decided to go with more of a production, Eddie. So like I got a videographer, we did more of a scripts, got a little better at the thumbnails, a little better at SEO and that stuff. So went down that journey for probably another 25, 30 videos, which is half a year, if not more. Learned a lot there. and then took anybody out there that's considering doing YouTube. I would read Daryl Eves' book, The YouTube Formula. Great book. Really gives you an idea on SEO, on titles and thumbnails, just the idea of how you go about creating a good video, which is really what I really want to emphasize here. It's all about just creating better videos. Does that mean it has to be this giant production? This is one of the things I learned. No, it doesn't have to be this giant production. So teaching, learn from my lessons. It doesn't, you don't have to go hire this videographer and do this big production. You don't have to do that. So we took that course, but one of the things in that course, Eddie, was Daryl Eves. So I bought the book, and then we took the course, and I took the course with the videographer and editor. So we were kind of on the same page with everything. Learned a lot. But what ended up happening, Eddie, is it had to feel like a job. So we got too much into the script and the storyline and all this stuff. And I was like, it became stressful, right? And it came away from I wasn't enjoying it. I was up the night before going, oh God, I got to do this thing tomorrow. And I'd get in there and I'm like, I'm gnawing my fingernails and the pressure's on. And I'm like, what have I done to myself? So I know this is a little long-winded, but for you out there, don't have to do that. Now, so then I decided to just do data stuff because that was something I could just do. I could throw this data up on the screen and I could go through it. And that's what I started with. That's what people ended up knowing me for, just the data guy. So I did that, but looking at the analytics, our views went way down, buddy. Some of my other videos had thousands of views, which can be a little bit of a vanity thing, and also not understanding that, if you go from thousands of views to hundreds of views, that can be a little bit of an ego thing, and or a business oh my God, a business wise, I don't have these views, I'm not going to get. It doesn't.
So let me ask you something real quick before you continue on. I want to know a little bit more about the style, because you just mentioned that you went more into a data style. What was the style you were trying to do that you heard was the right way of doing it, that eventually you just got kind of burned out or turned off to it? What was it that you were doing that just wasn't for you?
Thank you for that. There was aspects of, okay, here's what it is. It has to do with, I'll boil this down. It kind of has to do with telling a story, right? So has anybody ever told you a story that you can tell they're a really good storyteller because they keep you kind of engaged, because our mind can drift. It's hard to keep people's attention. That's what YouTube's all about. How can you keep people's attention? So part of that is you start the video off with, this is what I'm going to go over. And then there's a little bit of an anticipation of this is what's going to happen in the end. So this is what I'm going to deliver to you. So right in the beginning, they can either say, hey, this is a video I might want to watch, or I'm out, right? So you're trying to catch them in the beginning. I was trying to tell a story, but I was trying to get too in depth with telling the story, if that makes sense.
Were you spending a lot of time trying to architect the story?
Yeah, it was
am I writing this right? Should I write it here first? Should I say this second? Were you doing that?
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, what am I going to tell as a story here? That could be its own thing, right? One of us was West Palm Beach versus Palm Beach. It's kind of like baking a pie. I tried to do this whole thing, which, by the way, was one of my better performing videos, but it was one of the ones I hated. I didn't like the most. I don't know. So, but the point is that I was telling a story. I was trying to make, this relates to this, and so forth. So it got as you can see right here, I'm even getting bogged down trying to explain it to you, right? So there was parts of that were good. So I went totally to data away from the story, right? Now, I do believe that numbers tell a story too. We've shown this here before of, inventory rising, if it continues, looking at other years, kind of comparison. There's a little bit of a story there, not quite as compelling as other things, because a lot of people don't like the numbers. It's just big time. Yeah. Now, I did have, certain, which we'll go over here in a second. You can see what percent of the video people are watching, right? So I broke it down, and pretty much from the data stuff that I was doing, there's anywhere from 60 to 80 people that are watching the video all the way through. So we think about, hey, how much would it cost to get 60 to 80 people in a room to watch some data that you're throwing up there as an audience that's literally like going, wow, tell me more, right? That'll be a tough thing to do. Go rent a place, advertise it, come down here, everybody leave your thing to come to watch this thing. That's not an easy thing to do, to fill a room with 60 to 90 people, especially watching data. So that's where the vanity metrics can be very dangerous, right? Going like, oh, I had thousands and now I had 100. It's like, yeah, but if you're not really looking at, you got like 60 to 90 people that are actually somewhat, I don't know if I use the word captivated, but they're watching the video all the way through. So I don't know if that answers your question, Eddie. Does it?
No, it does. No, it absolutely does. And it makes me think of what you're just kind of leading to there is, first of all, how difficult would it be to find your people and get them all assembled in one room for 20, 30, 40-minute, whatever length of the conversation is, but the whole way through, those are your people. And that's one of those things that I wanted to share with people, and I've been fortunate enough to deploy YouTube strategies in other ancillary businesses for other types of businesses, not just in real estate. And that is certainly a recurring theme is, this idea of you don't have to have thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And in the real estate space, one of the key training thoughts that I would share with an agent would be, how many closings do you need to have to be successful? What would it take for you to be happy, to put food on your table, to pay your bills, to do the things that you want to do that to you equals success, right? I would ask that question. Person would be sitting across the agent, whether they were newer or struggling in their business, right across the desk from me. I'd have this conversation, and undoubtedly they would give me a number. And then what we would do is reverse engineer that number is, well, how many closing? What's our average price here in the market or the market you're trying to serve? Oh, it's X. Oh, okay. So how many closings do you have to have in order to make that commission, in order to make that number? And it would be 13, 18, 37, whatever the number was. And when you make it a manageable, realistic number, and you then slide that over to your marketing efforts, it's very powerful to understand how many times you need to turn that wheel to make things happen, to get those 37 closings to happen, and to make that number you said when you sat in front of me that you wanted to make. And so very similarly, it applies to YouTube and any of your video marketing efforts. How many people do you need in the room? How many closings? How many of those need to turn into clients? How many of those need into closings? What does that mean for you, right? And so I love that you touch on that, because that's exactly how I think about it. And what it really means is that although you may be seeing all these other people in your purview that are doing these monstrous YouTube channels, which in and of itself require people, time, effort, expense, et cetera, some of the things you've kind of talked about earlier, and then the challenge of finding those right people, which is maybe something we can lead on to here next, is not what you need. And you're starting to also lead into something I wanted to talk about too, which is you found a sweet spot for you, for Alex. You liked doing those things and you liked talking about it, and it was a lot more effortless for you. So talk about that kind of epiphany as like, hey, I like to do this, I want to do this, and I'm finding enough people that are interested in this.
All right, I got this. All right, so that's a good question. I would let me boil it down to this. I would think of it in two ways. Okay? Use YouTube as a place to store your videos into perpetuity. Think of it in this way, right? And first and foremost, you want to send out content to an existing database. Now, dude, you might only have 80 people. Your friends and family, you're just getting into real estate. You got 80 people, okay? You want to start sending out to them some YouTube videos. So I would offer, personally, you send whatever you want, but I would offer that sending some data out to that database would be a good place to start. Meaning, what is going on for the inventory in your general area, right? So it's kind of an informative thing. You think of this in buckets in a way. So I'll go a little bit sideways on this. So when you think about YouTube, they actually have, this is what Daryl Eves teaches, buckets. So think of one bucket as data, all right? So I'm sending out data. Another bucket would be community tours. So the neighborhood, whether you're in Indiana, whether you're in Seattle, wherever it is, you know your hometown. You know where the parks are. You know where this is what I've started doing, kind of these hidden spots. I'll give you, a little thing into that further. Another bucket might be home improvement tips. Okay. Spring cleaning, decluttering, these kinds of things. So these are different buckets. So you want to be sending out to your database once a week a video, right? To those 80 people. So whether that's home tours, whether that's data, whatever that is. And it'd probably say, hey, the data goes out every 6 weeks or something like that. So there's kind of a sequencing that goes to it. So I start first with, not that you're going to go out and build this big YouTube channel. Like, why don't you just create content that's good for your audience? And then as you're adding more people to your database, they're getting more of that data stuff, and they're starting to equate you with being that professional. That literally is sending them something every week. And bro, 90% of them might delete it and throw it to the side. Yet they're going to see it coming into their inbox. They're eventually maybe going to watch it. And they're going to go, oh, that Eddie or Sue out there in Seattle or wherever that's the real estate agent. So that's the first way, is to kind of like cultivate your database. Constant Contact is a good MailChimp. These are other good services that you can use to send out to your database. Now, the second thing is, if you want to start to take my lessons, and maybe some of yours you can throw in here, Eddie, I am now shooting, you don't need that professional person. Now, if you want to shoot you could get the camera on your phone, that's fine. You can send it Dropbox, download something and send it off to an editor. This Osmo has been pretty awesome for me. And so now what I'm doing is, my most two recent, and I don't know if we want to take a look at these, I think we're going to take a look at these in a second, I'm like, okay, what do I like doing? I don't mind talking into the camera. I like kind of showing the local area that I'm in. There's some really cool spots around here. Wherever you are, I'm sure there's some cool spots that you know about, that other people don't know about, that you want to show people that your area. So I've started doing the last two that have really, really hit, of like these hidden spots. And so I have a framework in my head, and this is why Daryl Eves and the YouTube formula will help you, of like, you got to have a little bit of a framework of what you're going to do. And then I'll get in a little bit of detail of that. Once the video goes out, you can get analytics back of where are people bouncing off. Like, oh, okay, I talked a little too long there. My video camera went too fast. They didn't understand where they were at, and they're like, I'm not interested anymore. I bail. So you can start to see these spots where you can get better and better and better to get your retention up. And this will create an audience that will come back and be wanting to watch your videos. That's how you get the videos better. And I haven't been great with that, Eddie. That's one of the things that I haven't been great with, is looking at the analytics, which is something I think we're going to talk about here in a second.
Well, let's go ahead. Why don't you pop it up? If you got it there.
So, okay. So, wait, so sorry. Where am I? Share.
Now, I think I would say, while you're bringing this up, is that don't be so concerned about the analytics, obviously, on day 1, day 2, day 3, right? These are things that you're going to start to look at after you've started to, determine what kind of videos you like to create, and where you're actually getting some interaction just by a simple peek at the view count, right? Which ones are resonating a little bit more with your audience. But again, like you said, Alex, you don't necessarily have to launch your YouTube channel for being a YouTube channel. You use it as a repository for all of your content, right? What YouTube decides to do with it in terms of who it gets it out to, how many people look at it, and this kind of thing, in the beginning could be secondary. I think at the start, you want to just get started knowing, kind of how, just practicing, getting on camera, doing the thing. And that way, once you are a lot more proficient, then YouTube is going to obviously start to push that type of video and that type of content out. And you'll know who's resonating with your content by way of looking at the analytics, which you're about to show us.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you, this is what this channel is about with you and I, of like, learn from our mistakes. So literally I'm trying to emphasize here, having a little bit of structure in the beginning to like, it could be on one page. This is what I'm going to do here. This is what I'm going to do here. This is what I'm going to do here. Here's where I'm going to do my call to action, which is, like below or comment below or give me a call if you're looking for, right? That's a call to action. So having just a rough framework of what that video is going to look like is going to be super helpful. So let's look at, so this is the channel analytics content. You can look at each one of these videos. All right. As you can see over here, my view count, this is my last video, which was March 28th, which was Friday. So today is Tuesday. Got 261 views. But if you look down here, you don't see like thousands of views other than this one, this 1,749,000, which, by the way, was a listing that I got from YouTube, sold the person a house for 1.6 million. So this is a, roughly $3 million
video.
Yeah, in a way. But we boosted this one. So that's why it's got 2,600 views. It was a home tour, but you can see the rest of these, Eddie. Most of this stuff is like Wellington versus Palm City, 87 views, like nothing great. Now this is a buyer's market. This is a thumbnail. The thumbnails do matter. Just kind of giving an idea of like that we try to make the thumbnails better, and you got all kinds of people out there on Fiverr and stuff that can do that for you. So, and then you can see we also, gosh, I don't know how in depth we want to get with this, Eddie, because we take the transcript, we put that into ChatGPT and so forth.
Well, let's look at the one that did really well. The one that did really well for you, the one that we've considered the $3 million one.
So the one that was like 3 weeks ago that hit. All right. So this is where you look at the analytics.
And now let's preface this by saying that you were starting to kind of cool off on the video strategy for a moment. Let's be honest, right? Didn't you say you were starting to kind of like shift gears?
I went data only for about 25 weeks almost.
Okay.
Yeah, which you can see right back here. So you can see most of this stuff, Tri-County Market Update. These are communities still affordable. This was data stuff, 265 views. These St. Lucie County versus Palm Beach County is data stuff. So the condo market update, data stuff, macro market update, data stuff. Did a little bit of a golf course thing, didn't hit that well. Went back, North Hutchinson Island, South Hutchinson. So this was all data. So I did this for almost 20 weeks, Eddie. So then I decided, like, man, I think I'd like to get back to I can do walk and talk really well. I don't know anybody out there. Maybe you're better on the phone when you're walking. I don't know, but I seem to be able to walk and talk. So I want to do a video on just downtown Stewart. This is a little, if I was to have an afternoon or a day, I would start here. You can walk down here. This is this spot, this spot, this spot on a map, right? And then finished it. So what I want to show you here is that this tells you based on your typical performance, right? So you got this video, typical performance. You can see the gray down here is the data stuff because those have been my typical performance. This video hit a lot harder, right? I have 1,100 views in less than 3 weeks, watch time. This is an interesting one. 110 hours. So again, back to what we were talking about, Eddie. How can you capture an audience and have them listen to you for 110 hours? Show me a better place to do that. Picked up 15 subscribers and I am monetized. Not a big deal there. But also will tell you everything from what's going on in the last few hours and so forth. Now, this is an interesting thing here. This gives you your average view duration. So it's an 18-minute video. Average view duration is 6 minutes and 13 seconds for an average percent of the whole video, 34%. So what does that say? Well, if I have 1,100 people, 1,100 views, and I, even by minute 17, 26, 22% retention. So that means that 22% of 1,100 have watched the video almost all the way through. So that's 220 people. That's the way I see it. Now I start to look at it that way, like, wow, 220 people. I think this is where we have to like dial in our expectations and go, this is powerful to have somebody. Does that make sense?
It makes 100% sense, and I'm glad you stopped there. I'm glad you paused there. I mean, it makes sense for you and me because we've gone down this journey. But for others that are maybe watching this for the first time, watching this video, and are interested in trying to see, how do I start my video content journey? Do I start with YouTube, et cetera? To see that, just to pose it in that way, to me is always very powerful. I mean, if you had 220 people, a captive audience in one room, I mean, what would you pay for that? If I told you I can get you 220 people that are interested in hearing you for over an hour talk or whatever the length of time is about that specific town, area, your style, what you have to say about it, all of these things, I can find 220 people that actually care to listen to that. What would you pay for that? You pay a lot for that, right? You'd pay a lot for that, and you'd pay a lot for that to stay in touch with them. And you'd pay a lot for that to continue to nurture those relationships. And that's what YouTube does. It may be a little bit outside of what you do, and this is kind of an important take. It may be outside of what you normally do with, let me get you into my email newsletter, let me always send you an email so that you know about me and remember about me. YouTube's doing the heavy lifting here. So in this instance, those 220 people that saw it the whole way through, YouTube is like, this kind of person, not only this person specifically, so let's tag them, right, in their own system, but a person like them, right, because this is monstrous Google, monstrous YouTube at work, has all the data that exists everywhere and anywhere. They're going to continue to serve up an Alex video that is similar to Stuart or about Stuart or just Alex, because their algorithm is incredibly complex, but they know people like this, like Alex. So the next time Alex puts out a video, we're going to serve up this new video to them. And so that is like you being able to email them on a regular basis. They're going to know when the new video drops. They're going to be in tune with you. They're going to see your face again. They're interested in hearing what you have to say. 7, 8, 9, 10 videos down the way, and you've got a story which I think leads really well into this. The person that was the data guy that ended up being the listings, right? He was quietly watching your video. So don't just take it from me, having just said that over these last couple of minutes. Alex, what happened when somebody, unbeknownst to you, was binging your content?
Yeah, that goes back to the video on the house. He story is he was watching he moved up to the area by watching my content. He was a wine guy and a food guy, kind of retired, older guy, and was watching those videos. So then that was back in 2020. He was watching those videos. He was watching them for a while. And then he moved up here, didn't call me, that's okay. Bought a house up here, and then realized he didn't want to be here. And in that interim, I started doing more data stuff. He was very much a data guy. So now I kind of roped him in with the wine and food and places to eat, and then supplemented that with data. So he started seeing the data. And now I was kind of his guy. So he decided he was going to sell 8-9 months ago. And his wife's like, well, we need to find a real estate agent. He's like, I already found him. And that was 6 months before he even put it on the market. So that just goes to show you there. Sometimes people are watching for a really long time. They're not reaching out, but if you keep sending that content, they're like, this person's consistent. They're professional. This is why it's a little bit of a longer play with YouTube. Two things that I wanted to mention that you brought up there, though, Eddie. Let's just kind of break it down from a cost standpoint. Let's say, so I have this company, they're called Easy Edits, and I'm throwing that out there. It's a really valuable thing for anybody that's watching this, to find a good editor that you can send your content to. They are very much on a timeline. They're very reliable. It's hard to find. Just letting you know, Easy Edits, Easy Edits. So to put that all together for their package, it costs me, not with my time, Eddie. So we got to be careful with that. But I'm probably putting three hours in from actual going out, driving and shooting, right? And then just downloading it and so forth. So let's say I've got personal 3 to 4 hours into it, and I've got, let's say it's around $525 per video. Then with thumbnail, probably another 25 to 30. So let's say you're $550 with the way that I'm doing it into doing a video, right?
One video a week.
How much does a Zillow lead cost? Now, Zillow leads on average right now are probably $200 easy, right? So you on 2 leads, make it 3, right? That are leads that came through with just an email address and a phone number, and those aren't always like hyper ready or even legitimate or whatever, may never pick up. I would offer that this, in the long run, is a better use of your funds if you're willing to do the long run. So I wanted to mention one thing that you said about the algorithm too. So when this video first started off, Eddie, it was like, man, this is like, think of somebody watching a video and then you know how they have the next suggested video after you get done. This is what's saying is coming before the video that you have is put up on the screen. Now, Eddie, when I put this up 3 weeks ago, it was like Mumbai train station stop. It was some wild stuff, man. Like, I was like, what kind of audience is like, what? Well, it was kind of thinking that it was a little bit of a travel vlog. So the algorithm saw it as a travel vlog. And so it was putting it in front of those kind of people. But it learned over the last 3 weeks, all of these are now Stuart, Florida. So it's got, the algorithm has got it now dialed in that this video is coming up anytime any of these other, which are all Stuart, exploring hidden treasures of the Treasure Coast, Stuart, Florida, one of the best places, why Stuart, so forth, right? So the algorithm has learned. And so I did want to show you that. It shows you all kinds of different stuff. Like these over here, man, were some search descriptions where I was like, what? But now it starts to dial it in more. So this is not lost in, oh, I did one video or whatever. It's like anytime someone is now searching for something around Stuart, Florida, my video comes up as a suggested video next. That's what you want out there in Seattle, Washington. That's what you want up there in Bangor, Maine. That's what you want in Honolulu, Hawaii, whatever. Of like somebody types in thinking about moving to Honolulu, whatever, somewhere in Hawaii. They put it in, right? And then your video kind of comes up next. Now maybe watch this video that I did on downtown Stuart and go, and not saying copy me, but go, oh, that's kind of a decent structure of a video. I'm here, starting here, going down here, and so forth. Dude, actually on this video in the intro, I said, hey, parking can be a little bit of a bear in Stuart. If you want to park in my parking lot, just give me a call. Let me know. I won't tow you. Well, dude, what did I have a week and a half later? Somebody called me. Hey, we're coming and we're going to be in your parking lot. Like, pretty cool. Now they go out to sell real estate, buy real estate? No, but I got a call and now they're on the list and they're watching the stuff and they like the video. So it tells you a lot of different stuff here, man. I don't want to get too in depth, but it gives you your impressions, views from impressions, watch time from impressions, tells you what your engagement is, which is really helpful stuff because it tells you where. So you want to do, we do chapters as well. It will tell you where people are dropping off, right? This actually changed a little bit recently. I could actually go back to another video. Let me show you one so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here because it's a little more in depth. So this is just the video I put out on Friday, and this hit even more than the other one. So you can see, again, the gray down here, right? That's your average. Let's look over here. I was trying to show you the reach. So engagement right here. So look at this, dude. So this is the gray. This is my average. I'm way above. Well, I'm not way, but I don't have this is called the hockey stick drop off. Like when your intro, I got to tighten up my intro a little bit more. I've gotten better. I tighten up my intro a little bit more, try to be not as wordy in the beginning. This is what I'm going to show you, right? And don't get as much drop off. But after 33 seconds, I still got 66% of the audience. And they kind of hang on, and then I hit the manatees. So these are parts where I hit the manatees. This is where now, specifically, I'll let you know here. I went back and watched the video. And I know the video enough because I've watched it 4 or 5 times now at least. There's a drop off in this Sanskrit Park part. So I lose about 10% of the audience. I got a little bit of too wordy, Eddie, right? I just was kind of a little bit of a throwaway. I'm looking this way. I'm kind of doing this. And the audience is like, you're not engaged. This is what tells me I lost about 10% of the audience right in there. Now, I did pick them back up. They can move ahead in the chapters, too, of like, I don't like what he's saying right here. But I kind of got enough interest where he said some interesting stuff over here. I want to see the manatees. I want to see this. They move ahead, right? So then this takes me to Basin Seafood. I stick on there pretty well, Basin Seafood, and then I did a produce shop, and I did this. Another thing you can do is pop culture. So there was a kitty on the floor in this produce shop, and I was like, "Hey, kitty." Then I went to South Park of like, "God damn it, kitty." I don't know if you're a South, but it was a like a quick snap of Cartman, right? It's just a funny little thing. We actually got a little bump up there. People thought that was interesting. So this is how granular the analytics can help you go, hey, I got to be a little less wordy in here. I can't whirl around too much with the camera because I'm going to lose the audience. Luckily, they came back, and I had pretty good retention. Then what do I get in the end, Eddie? My outro. As soon as I start to do, hey, if you're interested in real estate, the show, wham, we lose 10% of the audience right there. So I got to be tighter with that, so it just helps me understand how to make the video a little bit better. Lastly, maybe I'm boring some people out there, but this is good stuff.
No, you're going over data. We're going to capture the data, people that are interested in the data.
Yeah. Well, dude, I wasn't, even though I'm a data guy, I wasn't as good about going back and looking at my own data, right? So what does this stuff tell us here? This is returning viewers. This is telling me I'm having out of all those 250, I have 112 people coming back. These are unique viewers, which is not a returning viewer. You want the blue line, ideally, above. Eddie, I'm colorblind. What is this color of this line here?
Yeah, it's a bluish green.
Bluish green. So you want the dark blue line above, ideally. That's what you want because you want people coming back. So I know that was a lot.
No, it is a lot. And if we dial it back for those that are just trying to start, and the analytics are important, and you will need to dive into the analytics as a mechanism for improving your videos, right? But you can't get there unless you start. And there was something that you started with early on. So how does someone that hasn't done anything yet, How do they start? You kind of showed us your camera real quick. You talked about something really important earlier too about using your phone. All of our cell phones are more than enough to create really good content. And I would argue that the quality of your content is going to come from what you say and how you say it versus how great your camera is. There are times and places for that. I own this Florida podcast studio. We have 3 studio spaces. Alex, you've been in here. There's a lot of equipment in here. They have their time and place for their usage. But for what we're talking about right now, for the average agent that's trying to get started, your phone and a $25 microphone off of Amazon, because I think most people, and it's not just me in my opinion, but most people appreciate a nice quality audio, a nice crisp, clear audio with not any of those noisy distractions. Other than that, and maybe another $25 for a tripod if you wanted to set up a tripod, that's it. I mean, you're done. You're in video content creation territory. What would you say that someone could focus on early on? Because you've got the camera, you've got your microphone, you're ready to hit record. What are those couple, 2, 3 real practical little things they can talk about?
I love what you went over there, man, and emphasizing that you don't need this giant, incredible setup. Don't go buy, the big camera. If you're going to spend some money, I would spend it on finding an editor. Like editing, like what you put out is important, but like what you said, how you say it, when you say it, how you say it, what's your story, so forth. Important. A good editor can make a mediocre video a decent video, right? With just skipping forward, putting in a little B-roll, that kind of stuff. So that company, Easy Edits, I'm throwing this out there to you guys. It took me a long time to find these guys. So that's a good editor. Now having a little bit of a structure to like when your videos are going to come out, right? So you can look at the analytics and see, like, if you're starting out new, you don't know what your audience likes, when they like it. Let's just say you do it every Friday at 4:00. So shoot your stuff, watch maybe one of my videos that hit, like these work. So just the framework of this, a 10 or 13 minute video, the longer you better be better, because you're got to capture their attention over that time. So you might just start off with little 5-minute videos, 6-minute videos. Here's this community that I really like. Here's the clubhouse. Here's a model home. And this is the neighborhood that it's in. Simple. That's 6-7-minute video. So getting the editor to do that. And then, you can do ChatGPT, take the transcript of the video, put it into ChatGPT. It'll create a transcript. You can also say, pull 40 keywords out of this thing. So you don't have to go in and research a bunch of different keywords. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible for you guys out there. There is some, if you don't know how to use AI, you got to maybe learn how to use that, but it's going to help you a lot. So I would say getting a little comfortable with getting in front of the camera, getting a decent structure of like, this is what I'm going to say. This is when I'm going to say it roughly. Getting a good editor, learning how to use AI to get the transcript and the keywords, and then going to, you're going to have to go off to Fiverr or Upwork for somebody that's a thumbnail designer. And you can get better and better with your thumbnails by looking at what other thumbnails work. So there's some research that goes into this. And that was a lot, but
No, that's great. And because there is a lot of research, there is time that needs to be invested in this. And I think, again, you alluded to it earlier, is that you need to commit to this, right? That first editor said, hey, we got to commit to at least 30. And you're like, okay. And just to get to 30 is a big deal, right? So committing to content creation, video content creation without an immediate return is what you need to expect. Is absolutely, there's no sugarcoating that. It's going to take a moment. But if you believe in the medium, you believe in that's a way that you're a good communicator across video, you enjoy it. before you even decide what you're going to record about and what you're going to talk about. But you enjoy it. You like being on camera. You and I started this podcast relatively easily because we were both already proficient and comfortable with doing this and being on camera. So it's not a struggle for us. So if you're that kind of person and you like to share your message and build your business, obviously we're talking about real estate, you don't even have to worry about scripting. That's something we didn't really touch on, but do you really script or do you just kind of go off the cuff? If this is really your industry, you're proficient at this business, you know what your clientele wants to hear from you, there really should be no effort to be able to just get on camera, hit record good content. And like you said, either you sit down to do the editing and the thumbnail. Now, again, that's a whole other proficiency that needs to occur in order to become very good at it. So again, like we've talked about in other videos about leveraging your time and hiring people that are better at it, it's a good use of your money to be able to make that investment, to hire people that are much better at the editing, the thumbnails, the title work, the descriptions. These are all, if we started from the very top, Eddie, how do I become successful at YouTube? Is you have to master your topic, master your title, your thumbnail, and the first 3 seconds of your video. Those are, I would even go 30 seconds, right, for the long form video. But certainly if you're doing short form video like reels and things like that, 3 seconds is really all you get in order to hook somebody before they swipe to the next one. But in long form, you get a little bit more time. So like you said, making sure in the video you share what you're going to talk about. Hopefully you picked up on my intro for this video so that you knew exactly what you were going to watch and you're interested in continuing to watch the video for its intended purpose. So thanks, man. I know we can go pretty deep on this stuff and spend quite a bit of time on each one. There's a lot of lessons inside of it. But just as a touch point for how to get started, if you're interested in this kind of content, in terms of creating this kind of content to build your business, this was probably a really kind of basic but good start. And if any of you have any questions, if you've had successes with your video content, definitely leave a comment below, ask a question, share with the community. This is about sharing. It's not just about two guys sharing with you guys, and it's also about you also bringing in your ideas and your thoughts. So definitely leave them in the comments. Any other parting thought, Alex, on this journey, man?
I love it that, drop a comment below. Ask us a question. We'd love to answer your questions.
Absolutely. We've done it. We've had the pain points. Was the whole point of this video is to share some of those pain points to get you to accelerate there and be more successful faster. And as always, thanks for the conversation, my friend, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Take care, brother.